Let's talk about the truths that Jesus, Buddha, Moses, Krishna, Muhammad, and Bahá'u'lláh all agree on. Hey guys, it's John sitting here in my studio drinking my coffee. Coffee is so good for your soul, at least my soul. What if the greatest spiritual teachers across all time were all pointing to the one singular truth? I often talk about opening up all the text and putting on your love goggles and reading the loving parts, because you find the unity and the commonality in all the teachings when you do so. But to talk about what these specific teachers had in common is an important aspect, because when you put your fear goggles on, many of them say something different, and they go a different route. But when you put the love goggles on, they do have unifying truths that are found in all of their writings. It's time to go beyond the religious labels and just start looking at the shared spiritual core, the pieces that come from God. God is too big and too beautiful to be encompassed by any one school of thought or religion. And this video today is not about theology. It's about love, unity, and inner transformation. Let's talk about first the oneness of God, a universal source. Each of these teachers emphasize the divine as one, whether personal or impersonal. Joshua called God Abba, an intimate, loving Father. Abba. Moses, the Lord is one. He talked about pure monotheism, the being in the oneness of God, or God being a singular. And, Buddha taught the ultimate truth goes beyond ego, is nirvana. That ultimate truth is that within you is everything. Krishna described himself as the divine source of all, meaning that he is one with God. He is in that unity with God. Muhammad said there is no God but Allah, meaning that there is only one God and there is only this one essence of God. And Baha'u'lláh taught that all revelations come from the same divine source. This concept of all revelations coming from the same divine source means that they all believed in this one singular divine source, the oneness of God, the universal source. They all talked about that in a way that talks about this space of oneness. All of them say love and compassion is the core teaching. They all called for deep, active love and mercy. Love is not just for God, but for your neighbors and even your enemy. Buddha's compassion, Jesus' love ethic, Muhammad's mercy, Krishna's devotion all resonate. They all come back to that idea that love and compassion is within it. Baha'u'lláh said, let love guide every step and choice. And now, a quick word from our sponsor. Coffee Time with John. This channel runs off coffee, so get your coffee and tea at johnsjoe.com. So when you come to the concept of these teachers are all saying this same oneness of God, and that oneness is the love within us, and that love that we have the ability to create. They all talked about the golden rule: treat others as you wish to be treated. Every tradition teaches that. Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, and the others echoed this universal ethical law. They all spoke of treat others as you'd like to be treated, the golden rule. And this rule transcends culture and dogma and creed and race and religion and gender. It's treat people like you would like to be treated. I one time had someone describe my own faith. She said, your faith is don't be a jackass. I was like, pretty much, right? Be the love. Don't worry about race, creed, color, gender, any of that, because it's irrelevant to oneness, to that peace within you. Each one of them talked about peace and justice. But peace isn't the absence of war. It's rooted in love and fairness. Moses gave laws to create an order to keep people loving. Joshua said, blessed are the peacemakers, according to the Bible. Muhammad stressed mercy and equity. Baha'u'lláh said that justice is the foundation for unity, being fair with one another, being kind to one another. Each one of them talked about inner transformation being the true path. All of their teachings emphasize the inner journey. Joshua said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Buddha said, self-mastery leads to liberation. Krishna said, yoga and detachment from ego. The concept of yoga, the physical body moving, it's within you. It's within that concept of you, and the ego being the awareness of self, broadening that awareness to the awareness that you're one with everything. Muhammad said the greater jihad is the inner struggle, going within and finding that space within. Bahá'u'lláh said, purify the soul to reflect your divine light. Bring yourself back to that inner place of beauty and love so that it reflects without and affects the world around you. All of them break down a unity for humanity. They break down divisions, race, religion, the caste nation. Joshua embraced outcasts and Gentiles. He ate with the lepers. The people who seemed unworthy or disreputable, other people were saying, why are you eating with them? Why is your teacher doing that? They were part of the oneness of humanity as well, the oneness of God as well, so he didn't think of them as separate. Buddha rejected hierarchies. Muhammad proclaimed racial equality. Baha'u'lláh, the earth is but one country. This quote is so beautiful. The earth is but one country. This concept of borders and boundaries delineating us had nothing to do with the teachings of Baha'u'lláh or any of the others. Each one of them was the messenger of an example of what they were doing. They were not only speaking their truth, but living it fully. Each one lived what they taught. They lived lives that were templates of spiritual living, humility, service, forgiveness, courage. It takes bravery in a time of Roman rule and religious indoctrinations and religious dogmas and doctrines to step up and say the kingdom of heaven is within you. That takes a huge amount of courage. But they didn't just talk about that. They embodied it. They did the things that literally created their truth to be seen. Each one of them talks about spirituality being a progressive revelation, how the spiritual truth is not a one and done. It's who you are in each moment. Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, Baha'u'lláh, they show it as an unfolding message. Humanity is growing and changing, and so does the truth. The truth is growing and changing, and what's interesting, the more it grows and changes, the more fear is reduced. If you look at the Abrahamic religions, which is why I'm using these people as the example. Moses coming from Judaism, Jesus coming from Christianity, Muhammad coming from Islam, Baha'u'lláh coming from the Baha'i faith, which they believe they're part of the Abrahamic line. Buddha and Krishna, of course, not coming from the Abrahamic line, but they are mirroring what the Abrahamic line avatars are speaking of. Each one of them talked about detaching from materialism, that's materialism distracts from spiritual truth. Each one of them warned against putting wealth over spirit. Simplicity, generosity, and focus on the eternal are the key themes, not how much you have in your bank account or what kind of car you drive. They talk about this concept of the spiritual wealth is far greater than any material wealth you could ever live. Each one of them offered an opportunity for hope and renewal and light. They offered you to say that you don't have to worry about who you were yesterday. Here in the now, you can be renewed. You can be born again. You can become as a child and enter the kingdom of heaven. And this hope for revival is not just personal, it's global. We can change the world. The light overcomes darkness. Unity overcomes division. A better world is not only possible, it begins within you, within each one of us. And that's what each one of these teachers taught, this concept of right here, right now, we are one with God. We have the power within ourselves to be a loving world, to love one another, to treat each other fairly. And despite different cultures and times, these teachers spoke of a common spiritual language. The labels may differ, but the light is the same. And if you just take what they're talking about and live the shared truth, love, unity, peace, and inner awakening that they're all speaking of, you'll find a greater awareness within yourself that you can then step forward and live into the world as an example for others to see you and make their own choices and create a loving world themselves. And this video is really about showing you the unity of all of these faiths and how they all talk about being love, being one with the source, and literally living into the world in the present moment. And that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya.